This video is going to be a bit more serious than my previous ones, but there are some things that I need to say. This year's song contest had probably some of the most shocking and contrasting results we have ever seen. But most importantly, I think this contest is the breaking point of the future of this competition. Also, apologies if I'm looking down a bit more in this video. I have some notes and I want to make sure that I get everything off my chest and I say everything that I want to say. I truly believe unless serious changes are made to the rules and regulations regarding the advertisement and distribution of votes, as well as Israel's participation in the contest, and how it can and is ruining the reputation of the Eurovision Song Contest, we can potentially not have a contest next year. I know that I'm a relatively small voice within this community, but I will never, ever, ever compromise my morals for the sake of appeasing YouTube viewers or even future opportunities I may get outside of this. If you do not support me in my views regarding this, I am very happy for you to unsubscribe. I'm very happy for you to unfollow me. I do not make money from this and I do not owe anyone anything. I believe that the state of Israel is committing a genocide against Palestine, and even me saying those words has caused me to receive death threats and harassment. And anyone that has followed me since last year will know that I am absolutely no stranger to this, and unfortunately I'm quite used to it, and I think a lot of it is misogyny. But I think I wanted to get my voice out because I think I wanted to hear a strong female voice talk about this, and I'd like to be the person to do that. Israel's current and future participation in the contest is bringing it into disrepute, which is actually a rule within the contest that got Russia expelled in 2022. But somehow the rules of disrepute have wavered when it comes to Khan and the state of Israel. Today, a Spanish news site has leaked confidential documents of letters from the EBU warning Khan about how the Israeli delegation behaved in an offensive manner, citing the rules they broke and led them to being removed from the press room last year. We learned that 16 different delegations made formal complaints to the EBU about the Israeli delegation and how they created a toxic environment. There are plenty of videos and articles describing the actions of Khan last year and the Israeli delegation's behavior within the press room, but I won't go into it in this video because we would literally be here all day, which I think actually furthers my point. After last year, there was an independent investigation into the contest. They released a report with their findings, and it said, the EBU is and should remain a non-political organisation that collaboratively manages the ESC alongside its member shareholders. Similarly, the ESC is and should remain a non-political event. However, we also recognise that with the increase of geopolitical tensions, the EBU and ESC are increasingly exposed to reputational damage from these external forces. One of the recommendations within this report was to listen to the opinions of a wide range of members regarding key decisions. And despite RTVE opening up a debate about Israel's participation, by the time of the 2025 contest, it became clear that Khan just got a slap on the wrist as they were able to compete again. However, it is clear an EBU warning did work to an extent because we did get a little bit less funny business from Khan throughout the season. But little did we know the impact of Israel's participation on the results of the contest would be even greater than last year. And to this, I beg the EBU to follow your own advice in the roadmap that you wrote yourselves, and to really consider how the current voting system can severely damage the reputation, the same reputation that you protected from Russia's participation.
Hey, mid-edit Faith here. I just wanted to clarify and expand on a few things. So the independent investigation and roadmap are separate. The roadmap concludes 9 key areas of development analysed from the investigation. These recommendations were intended to be applied to the 2025 edition of the contest, but I'd argue otherwise. There seems to be a big focus on crisis management and communication, but there's 2 points I want to quickly focus on. Recommendation 6 revolves around strengthening the EBU's external communications, management and structure. It's no secret that Martin Osterdahl isn't the most liked figure both within and outside the EBU. So his lack of presence at the contest may be linked to this. Also, it's rumoured that he's leaving the job. Haha. Recommendation 8 suggests creating a show that appeals to all audiences. Unfortunately, they may have gone the other end of the spectrum implementing this so-called recommendation, as Erika Vickman was essentially told to cover up, despite her outfit being far from the most revealing they've had. And more importantly, banning the artists from carrying flags that aren't their representative country's national flag, meaning that inclusion flags such as pride flags were not allowed. an action that I believe caused much more harm than good. I also believe still choosing to include a country committing a genocide doesn't appeal to the public's best interests either. Essentially, the roadmap is just a bunch of words that meant little to nothing in the 2025 contest. You can read it for yourself. I'll link it in the description.
The EBU introduced 50% jury influence back into the modern contest in 2010. This is a way of combating block voting and to ensure that songs are rewarded for musical merit, and also to ensure the quality of the contest. However, I believe the televoting reaction in 2025 was absolutely unprecedented, and the goalpost has now shifted. Israel coming second in this year's contest, I think, was something that most Eurofans were genuinely not expecting at all. Before the contest in 2024, Israel winning was a genuine concern amongst fans because it was the first contest since the genocide began. But I think Israel coming fifth unfortunately gave us all a false sense of security, and a lot of us thought maybe the televoting won't come in as strong this year. Unfortunately, what I think happened was because the juries were so split this year, it allowed countries with extremely high televotes to really storm up the leaderboard. Israel actually scored slightly less in this year's televote than they did last year, but they ended up taking the lead right up until the end. Estonia also received an extremely high televote, and as much as I dislike the song, Espresso Macchiato being such a televote magnet may have actually prevented Israel from receiving even more points and potentially winning the whole thing. I watched the final with my friends this year, and I was going to film a reaction, but I genuinely couldn't watch the final because I literally had my hands like this. I couldn't watch it. And a lot of my friends actually were crying. And that was incredibly, incredibly painful to watch. To see something that brought us together with so much happiness. In fact, we all met because of the competition, and we were potentially seeing it being torn apart in front of our eyes. We were genuinely so close to disaster, and the mood of the room was incredibly somber. It doesn't take a genius to work out that the extremely high televote that Israel received this year wasn't based on musical merit at all. Khan, Israel's broadcaster, had seemingly spent millions and millions promoting their song. They promoted it in Times Square, as well as YouTube advertisements, which they recorded in multiple languages to get as big reach as possible. Some of the advertisements were even telling people to vote for the song 20 times, which is the maximum amount of votes that someone can give. This wasn't just any old marketing tactic, this was propaganda.
Since I recorded this video, it's also come out that the Israeli government essentially paid for the adverts, and to that I say, fork, fowl and kitchen.
Hoarding votes in this way is not in the faith or spirit of the contest. It skews genuine musical merit and is also not fair on the other artists, as well as smaller delegations who simply do not have the budget to promote their song to this extent. In response to this, Martin Green, the director of the Eurovision Song Contest, has said, "The Eurovision Song Contest rules are designed to ensure a fair and neutral competition. These rules do not prohibit participating broadcasters or third parties such as record labels or others from promoting their entries online and elsewhere, as long as such promotion does not instrumentalize the contest or breach its editorial guidelines. Many delegations employ paid promotion campaigns to support the song, profile, and future careers of their artists." Yes, promotion is often a big part of a country's campaign, but it's clear Israel are monopolizing the contest as a way to show who is on their side. I know music is subjective, but let's be real. That was not a second place song. The fact that a song came 15th out of 26 songs and almost won pretty much goes against the reason why juries were brought back in the first place. To be clear, I'm not saying that the EBU should have seen this coming. As I said, I think last year the results gave us all a bit of a false sense of security, but now it has almost become a reality. The EBU simply cannot turn a blind eye to this anymore. At the moment of recording, Spain requested an investigation into the voting by the EBU, as Israel scored extremely high within their televote but received pretty much no votes from their juries. And this suggests discrepancy as well as foul play. Spain's Prime Minister has even directly called out for the disqualification of Israel at Eurovision. Belgium and the Netherlands have also threatened their participation unless changes are made to the voting system. And Ireland have requested detailed voting figures from the EBU multiple times. There's probably going to be a lot of information that comes out whilst I'm filming and editing this. So for context, I am filming this on Tuesday, the 20th of May. Earlier today, Belgium had released the voting figures from the past 3 contests. Now for this bit, I am going to have to look down a lot, I'm really sorry. It is expected that voting figures would increase with the introduction of online voting, as it makes voting more accessible for people. However, the figures show in 2024, despite not qualifying, there were 5 times the amount of votes in comparison to the semi-final. In 2023, the last time Belgium qualified, the votes in the final increased by 6 times in comparison to the semi-final. However, this figure includes around 500,000 more viewers, as well as Belgium's inclusion in the final. In 2025, the figures are even more extreme. The amount of votes from the semi-final to the final increased almost tenfold. This is with 200,000 less viewers than the year before. With 660,000 viewers this year, there were 220,000 votes made in the final. For those who need a clearer picture, in the 2023 final, there were 130,000 votes cast between 1.3 million viewers. In 2025, there were 220,000 votes cast between 660,000 viewers. The Spanish broadcaster RTVE also announced that there were 142,000 votes made amongst the viewership of 6 million people. Now, this is incredibly strange considering Spain had 6 times the amount of viewership as Belgium and also more than 4 times the population. To say this is a coincidence is incredibly naive, and it's clear VRT shared these results because they want answers for this irregular voting pattern. The Spanish broadcaster has requested an audit of the televoting from the EBU. However, the Belgian broadcaster hasn't done this. Instead, a spokesperson has said they want to question whether the current voting system is, and I quote, a fair reflection of the opinion of viewers. And this brings me on to my next point. So the EBU has a set criteria for irregular voting patterns, and how irregular voting patterns need to be investigated. In the official Eurovision Code of Conduct, it says, maintaining the integrity of the voting process is vital. We appreciate everyone's commitment to upholding this integrity. Any manipulation or attempt to influence the results or the outcome of the ESC is not permitted and will be severely sanctioned in accordance with this Code of Conduct and the ESC rules. Though I cannot find what determines damaging integrity for the televote, when 6 juries were pulled out of the competition in 2022, the EBU released the security checks for an irregular vote within the juries. A deviation from the norm, aka does it reflect the overall taste? Voting patterns, irregularities, reoccurring patterns within other countries, and beneficiaries. If more than 2 of these checks are detected, the vote is considered irregular. If the EBU were to follow these rules with the televote, there is absolutely no question that the televote from 24 to 2025 would be considered irregular. The issue is the EBU had determined the results on the night of the contests as valid, which in this context should mean that all the votes were verified and from individual people, and that there were no cyber attacks or hacks involved. Everyone can vote up to 20 times, so that means that everyone was following the rules, right? Well, today ESC Insight released an article suggesting otherwise, and this is potentially groundbreaking. They investigated how easy it is to cast multiple votes through the ESC Vote website and the app. Within the app, votes are purchased using a bank card. However, as long as you use a different bank card, you can vote more than 20 times. This was tested by voting for the same countries with the same device, same IP address, location, and email. This means that viewers can very easily manipulate the voting system should they so choose. It's a very blatant weakness in the system, and I'm shocked it hasn't been identified. So, what needs to change? This isn't going to be a quick fix, and the EBU need to listen to the opinions of both the delegations and the fans, as well as third parties observing the results from an objective and fair standpoint. Consider limiting the amount of votes that one person can give, which creates a more even playing field. There needs to be a way to prevent people from abusing the system by using multiple bank cards to vote multiple times. Limit the amount of money a broadcaster can spend on external advertising, and be stricter in recognising which advertisements were not made in good faith and instead push a further agenda. I'm aware that there isn't really a clear answer, but with their access to world-leading professionals, I'm sure that a balance can be restored somewhere. I want to conclude this by saying I'm not using this video to get angry at the EBU. I believe anger can often get misdirected, and it often doesn't help in situations like this. Although I do believe that feeling anger towards the situation is still very valid. I am simply requesting on behalf of millions of Eurovision fans that the EBU need to form some updated rules, boundaries, as well as deeper voting transparency to protect the integrity of the contest. I love this contest and I want it to be fair, because fairness is what everyone, whether it's the artists, the delegations, or the viewers, deserve. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.